Welcome to another round of Twisted Metal. Where Mr. Grimm was the round I was waiting for, this is the round I've been dreading. But before we get to the reason for that, I'm going to go through the rest of the epilogues that Lost has provided for us. We already saw John Doe's, so on to No Face. He's taken up serial killing as a hobby, but he likes to focus on those that he deems evil at least. He then steals their eyes and tongues in an attempt to rebuild his own face, so that his smile will stop horrifying his new baby daughter. This makes specific mention of the 8-year time lapse between Black and Lost, something alluded to in Junkyard Dog's story. Mr. Grimm has become something of a human flesh addict since lapsing back into cannibalism, and has completely lost his mind as a result. He now wanders the streets, indiscriminately harvesting bodies and conversing with the skull of his old Vietnam buddy. All this has made him begin to think he might actually be the Grim Reaper, in a direct allusion to his classic Twisted Metal incarnations. Axel's epilogue is as underwhelming as his story was. He still feels guilty about his wife's death, and is probably confused about why his revenge didn't really take. He insists on remaining the axle of his ridiculously designed vehicle, and hopes that dragging his feet across asphalt all day long will serve as penance until his wife's spirit forgives him? Who knows? Dollface has reached adulthood since the last tournament and physically outgrown her mask, but she still can't remove it. As a result, it has begun to crush her skull and damage her mind. No word on what that actually entails, though. Agent Stone has easily the most bizarre of the epilogues, as his dying in the past has caused him to be trapped in a time loop. He now stands before Calypso every night to receive his prize, which results in him going back in time, dying to a bullet in the head, and repeat ad nauseum. There seems to be no escape from his horrible fate, as it doesn't make any sense. These next two will be saving for dessert. So we carry on to Spectre. Bloody Mary seems to have lost all sense of reality. She now just drives around killing people purely on instinct with no particular goal in mind. Deep down, she does hope to be killed in the contest just to end her suffering, which is not a very satisfying goal to strive for, but it does bring us to our actual driver of the day, Manslaughter, my least favorite vehicle. Like Cage, the driver of Manslaughter is not a patient of Blackfield Asylum, so we don't actually know anything about him, but luckily his reasons for joining the contest are considerably less sadistic than Cage's were. See, what Black wants, and very eloquently expresses here, is to kill Calypso. Seems hard for him to speak with his mouth zippered shut, but if you read his loading screen comments in the video description, you'll see he doesn't have much to say anyway. And we're taking him to the Stadium Slaughter. No relation. Now, I think every vehicle in this game has its own strengths. I'd like to start by saying what I like about this vehicle. I think Manslaughter is a really cool name for a Twisted Metal car, and Black is a pretty cool name for a mysterious driver. And that's it. I don't like anything else about this car. It's just a huge, slow target, really. It can really take a beating, but it's going to take that beating fast, because it can't escape from any attacks. It also suffers from having a short-range special, and it's very hard to get in range of your opponents. Can do a sick rail grind that I could probably never repeat, but that's not much of a selling point, more of a glitch. I do think Manslaughter makes a decent opponent when he's just a giant obstacle, but actually playing as him is something I've never enjoyed in the least. By far my least favorite and most difficult story to complete. Took forever. Trying to elude the constant onslaught of much faster vehicles right now. But really, this is what I'm used to seeing when playing as Manslaughter. Just dozens of attacks, spitefully ensuring that he dies and stays dead. But all that said, Lost actually does a lot of favors for Manslaughter. He's a lot better in this version of the game. Like the generally increased damage of most attacks, really benefits Manslaughter's special, which hits multiple times. You can see just grazing Junkyard Dog did 25 damage, which is plenty. I've mentioned before that ramming enemies is much more effective than it was in Black. You can easily kill the smaller vehicles just by crushing them against the wall. As you could in Black, but it's easier here, I find. The generally simpler level design we're seeing here, because the levels aren't really finished, also really benefits Manslaughter. He doesn't have to do nearly as much hunting as he used to. They even graphically improved him. They made the cab turn separately from the load he's carrying, which was not the case in Twisted Metal Black. And overall, it's much more enjoyable to play as Manslaughter here than it was in Black. So I'm glad I saved him for Lost. Another thing they improved was the energy attacks in this game. You can now backfire very easily. All you have to do is hold triangle, press back. The weapon you're currently holding fires backwards. Use it to very easily kill Junkyard Dog, who's tailgating me. All of the energy attacks are now performed by holding triangle and pressing a single direction, which means we're down to just 3 energy attacks: the freeze shot, invincibility, and dropping mines. But they're all a lot easier to deploy in an emergency, so it's a vast improvement. In fact, they changed a lot of controls in this game. They made it so that if you press a direction, your vehicle just sort of lazily drifts that way. You have to hold X in order to make sharp turns, which just means that I'm now reliant on the use of the face buttons to control this game, whereas they were optional in Black. I never used them myself, so it took some getting used to. Sweet Tooth was well outside of the range of my special there. I had no chance of catching up to him in this hunk of junk. But fire missiles dealt with him nicely. Being unarmed as Manslaughter, though, is a complete nightmare. He's so slow that it takes forever to get rearmed, and his special is far too situational to rely on for any extended period of time. You can also have a bit of a mouse and elephant relationship with the smaller vehicles, where he has a hard time hitting them. That's not always the case. I dumped my entire special on Grimm's head and almost instantly killed him. Only 2 enemies remain. They're the hard-to-catch type, but they're at very low health. One of them is 12-Pack, a vehicle we've never seen before because he is unique to Lost. We don't know much about him yet, but that will change soon enough. Make use of our 1 recharge for the level, and get ready to finally finish off Grimm. Gas can has also suffered some changes in Lost. It can now damage the user who fires it, and as a result, you gotta fire it far away from yourself. Makes it a lot less useful. Oh, and there goes 12-Pack, like he was none of them. Drivers no longer flee the scene of their demise, but their vehicle's husks do remain on the battlefield for the duration of the fight. They can make for some fun toys to be batted around, or on very rare occasion, obstacles that absorb your attacks. In this case, they aided us in our celebration of a very painless look at Black's worst vehicle. Unfortunately, though, the worst is still yet to come in the form of Manslaughter's ending. Imagine spending hours trudging through every level of Black as its slowest, least fun vehicle, all to be rewarded with 5 still images, a single line of dialogue, and no resolution whatsoever. That is why I hate Manslaughter. Once again, though, Lost makes a concerted effort at redemption with his epilogue. The invincible mystery man remains hell-bent on killing Calypso, and rumors have begun to swirl that he comes from the colorful world of Twisted Metal, and is being used by colorful Calypso to kill his Dark World counterpart. This sets up the potential for an interdimensional conflict, maybe even threatens to reveal the identity of Black himself, and all manner of intrigue that would have been far more interesting than what we've seen from him so far. But that's what we've been left with, and I couldn't be happier to move past it and onto the final hidden character in the next round.